Welcome to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Rob. Rob, it's a pleasure to have you back. It's been a while. You've been taking a journey. We haven't talked since episode 993.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been great. I've been great. How you going?
What are you? Well, I'm doing perfect, I guess. I don't know. I'm happy you're here. I have to ask, what, dude? I don't think I've ever asked you this question, but out of all the things you would want to get interested in, like a secret passion topic, anything that like you would just like to, if someone could bring it up, it would be something you could always just talk about or just you'd want to know more about. What is it?
Ooh, it'd either be like cooking stories,
What?
like cooking stories. Like if you brought up something that Anthony Bourdain was doing, or
Okay.
how Gordon Ramsay was sort of tutored, or that should just interest me, right? Because I've been going in my autobiography back, and I read like some of Anthony Bourdain's stuff, but then also ancient aliens and civilizations.
Let's
And
tackle the cooking one first, and then we're gonna go to the ancient aliens. Why cooking stuff specifically? Do you just like the stories behind the chefs of why they maybe come up with their creative influence? Or are you like interested in like the shit that Martha Stewart does? Like she stabbed a couple people in jail and shit.
see, I don't know about that. That's a mad story. Yeah, not at all.
I can give you a
But
behind the scenes of some of the cooking show stuff, but that's all. Like, did you know that the government, when they have like a government general or something on a cooking network, that's on purpose. The government purposely does that, so you see a military person connecting with regular populations, and it's like a little small little propaganda tactic. I had a guy on my show that did a documentary about it, and he mentioned like, yeah, cooking shows. Every single movie in Hollywood is basically influenced by the government. Whenever you see a jetliner or you see a military vehicle, they have to get permission from the government to do so. And they have to ask the government can honestly, they change scripts. They changed the movie Lone Survivor, for instance. Afterwards of seeing it, I wanted to join my recruitment station. That was a propaganda film. That's what's crazy.
oh shit, yeah. Well, it felt like a propaganda film. It's like one man against thousands or
But
something like
cooking
that.
shows, you're seeing Martha Stewart and a general make a quiche, and then immediately that's government influenced.
That's right. Yeah. Like there's a hand in everything, but that's like the whole thing. Like everything is influenced by something else. Like for instance, like the ancient alien civilization thing. So my missus has gone down this wormhole at the moment, where she is like looking into ancient aliens, the fall of the sort of rise of Christianity, the fall of Christianity, and like the influence there, and what could possibly have gone on behind the scenes. It feels like one big conspiracy.
Do you think aliens are real?
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, what's your interpretation of them? I've had some of the top experts on my show about aliens. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think we've talked about aliens a couple of times. Last time was that UAP sighting.
I stepped out of that realm for a little while, but coming across like I'm doing government, like I'm just looking through government documents the past couple of months, and then I see a UAP or UFO document, and I'm like, well, fuck, I gotta click on it, and I'm curious now. And you're going in there, and they have like a whole chart and everything. I actually had at one point I saved on my computer where it talked about the number of sightings, and it talked about being able to classify what this is and the distinction categories. And it was on the CIA's website. They were like distinctive categories: shape, speed, where you saw it, what like best descriptions you possibly can. Did it make a noise? And it's just like all these different classifications where I'm like, oh my God, it's like when you find out the real history of shit, you're just like, fuck.
Yeah. Well, so I was watching. It's weird because like my missus is going through this like journey, right? She's like working her way through all this
She's finding
content and
herself,
stuff.
finding herself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in ancient civilizations. And then I go watch Nope. And it's weird because Nope is like about a UFO or in there UAP. And they even say in there the reason why they changed the name to UAP is to sort of almost desensitize people. So it's like it's not a UFO, which is has a stigma around it. It's a UAP. So people are like, well, it's a UAP. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It doesn't have the same heft and feeling and weight that UFO does because people aren't.
Real quick, I want to go back to what you said about your wife finding herself with UFOs. That's still better than Game of Thrones. Just it's a way better. I'd rather have that than anything else. If somebody like I hate the Game of Thrones subject in general.
Really?
It's not my show. I watched like 2 episodes of it and nah, I couldn't. Peter Dinklage is cool, but I don't know. There's a lot of brother
Yeah.
fucking and stuff like that. I couldn't really get down with.
Yeah. And it goes deeper than that.
It's like they're making a Winnie the Pooh horror movie. You know that, right?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, that's
Is
gonna
it
be fun as hell. But
blood
my
and honey?
childhood's yeah, I know my childhood's ruined. I was watching the new Dragon Ball Z in theaters with someone, and he goes, "Yeah, did you know they're making a new Winnie the Pooh movie?" And I was like, "What?" And I looked it up, and I was like, "How did they get rights from Disney to do this?" Like Disney, I feel
Yeah,
like they would
exactly.
sue your asshole off.
That's right. Yeah. Unless they change the names or something like that. Like sometimes they're legally allowed to. Or is it open source because it's from that author from years ago and the Disney iteration? You can't do that version. I don't know. I don't know if Winnie the Pooh is open source. It's like Tarzan or fucking King Kong. Like
Okay,
now everyone's got a King Kong project out.
hang on. Let's go back to the alien subject. I thought it was a brand change because a lot of the people in the UFO community thought it was nicer to say UAPs. So there was less stigma behind it. I don't know if it was a government tactic to do that. I just think that talking with so many people who've looked at the documents, I've looked at the documents myself, you have to understand the time period of when this all kind of started. So throughout like a giant chunk, especially if you're looking at like US documents, there's just a lot of fear of communism and a lot of fear of like Russia being up to things. I mean, I could give you 4 examples really quickly. One, Men Who Stare at Goats. That's based on a real government project about creating psychological warriors. The only reason we
Mhm.
dived into that was because we got a tip off that Russia was creating psychological super soldiers. And that had us go
Which
all down. What do you mean?
you can see that in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
main villain in that is also yeah.
All right. Let's stick to like the reality. That is probably my favorite Indiana Jones though, is Crystal Skull.
What?
I like Green Lantern too. People
Anyways,
give me crap for that. But back to the psychological warrior stuff. So then there's different things that around the UAP subject, and I've had Larry Hancock. He's a good friend of mine. He studies JFK and he also studies the UFO stuff. I had him on initially to talk about the UFO stuff, and he's looked through 20,000 something documents to be able to decipher out what these things are. So there's talks of UFOs from like the 50s and a little bit before that, even a little bit before Roswell. But you have to understand is that where there's a document that talks about it, you have to discern if it's real or if it's propaganda. Because what the American government decided to do at one point was decide to, with the real documents, put in a bunch of fake documents in case a Russian spy infiltrated and came across your documents, they would run off with false information. Same like us with Men Who Stare at Goats, where we create psychological warriors. So, I mean, you got to understand like everything that they looked at when it came to anything happening in the sky was it's Russia, it's somebody doing something. And I mean, that could be the case today too. I've talked to people who, one guy who investigates Area 51, he lives right beside it, basically. He just has been observing it, studying into their radio frequencies, listening to all their codes and everything that goes on there. And he makes a blog about it. And he's been doing it for 25 years. And he's like, it's not aliens, but what it is very high tech government equipment. And then you get into the area of what we have now, like, you know how you have your changing lights behind you? Well, they have things that can make a projection that just project on the air. They don't project off a screen or anything, so it can create an image right in front of you like a hologram. And they think that they can attach these things or be able to broadcast these things into the sky. And this is what these tic tacs are. I mean, that's just a theory. Like I said, we don't have any conclusive evidence on what that is. And surprisingly, the government doesn't really know what the hell's going on either.
Jesus. Well, I was talking more the like in ancient Egypt, how there's hieroglyphics and stuff on the walls that those figures were actually real. Because there's pyramids all over the world and those link and they have like portals and keys and stuff like this. This is all third hand information that my missus like sort of like she kind of researches and she's like subscribed to this thing called Gaia and she's like deep into that.
Wait, she's subscribed to a thing called Gaia? You mean Mother Earth?
It's a network, it's like a streaming service, and it holds all this information about like ancient civilizations and people that are sort of tracking these portals and it's got it's like the Netflix of like alien shit.
God, I wish I lived in fucking Australia, man.
It's an American thing.
I don't know. I have never heard of it.
Oh, really? Check it out. GAIA.com.
If I'm gonna be honest, I haven't really watched any like I don't know anything besides JFK topics for like the past like fucking 3 months, man. I have Netflix and Hulu, but there's like nothing good. Like my browsing history, like me and my buddy share an account. So his browsing history is like, oh, he watched the Chicago Bulls documentary, and then like if you check my browsing history, it's like 3 Mile Island about the nuclear meltdown. Then it's like Ted Bundy tapes. And then it's like, and it's just like, don't you ever want to watch like happy shit? I'm like, I don't know about you, but this is fascinating to me. But like, if you watch the History Channel at like 2 o'clock in the morning, they do like a shift change and it just plays like it tells you the whole day about the pyramids were built by the Egyptians and it was stone by stone. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, when that shift change happens, it's immediately fucking UFOs built the pyramids. And it's just this nut stuff. I don't know if I can. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what your missus sees. I mean, what has she told you about how the pyramids even got there? Did she talk about help from an ancient civilization or alien civilization?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because that's what they base their gods on, apparently.
Explain.
So, well, the gods back then were actual aliens, and um, I don't know how they built the pyramids and whatnot, but those pyramids are supposed to be like portals inside and machines, and the government knows that, and that's the reason why you're not allowed to go into these pyramids.
Now, do you believe that? I can't tell if you're like doing one of those deep. I'm sorry. I don't know if you just like froze for a second, but I was like, do you believe that? And there was like a good silence for like maybe 5, 10 seconds. And I was like, he either froze or he is just doesn't want to answer that question.
I get black bagged and dragged off. Um, man, I do believe it because I believe religion is a form of control, and I believe religion was kind of put in place um, to sort of control people and control the population. But no, I definitely do believe it.
Do you really think that though? Like, do you think that there's because here's a weird thing. I used to think that was really conspiratorial talk. Like whenever someone would talk about like climate change and someone would talk about all this stuff and like, oh, they're government protocols to keep you locked down. They're for and like to this 1984 or Great Reset scenario. Then I started talking to like a lot of people who I would never thought have thought this way, and they started thinking that way. Like a like I've done COVID episodes, and everyone goes, "That's the whole point of the whole thing," and I'm like, man, I don't necessarily believe it's all like that. I think some things can be reasonably explained, but I also understand how corrupting power is. And if you're asking, you know, for instance, if you talked about like the mandate type shit, I mean, the mandate stuff, people accepted and it got very divisive. And then not even a couple weeks later, you saw a scenario like Roe v. Wade, where something that's been figured out for 50 years got reversed and then people couldn't control their own autonomy. I mean, so there's reasonable things to question when it comes to like the weird like UAP and ancient worldly stuff. I don't know, because then I hear an interview with Buzz Aldrin, who's been to the moon, and he's like, "There's water on the moon, and there's an obelisk on Mars." And he's been saying that for years. And then we find water on the moon. And I'm like, well, fuck, is there an obelisk on Mars?
And why hasn't Elon Musk figured it out yet? Well, why it kind of it seems that way to me, right? Is the Vatican is probably one of the richest places in the world, and there's massive influence there. And a lot of the stories that are in the Bible also weirdly show up in other ancient civilizations as well. So is it that there's this coincidence throughout time and there's like this loop, or is it that the Bible is derivative of like other older stories?
I can give you two really good examples. One from an expert I had on my show who does this class called Bible to I think it's Bible literature to realistic world scenarios or something like that. That's the basis of what it is. And he goes, if you look at every culture having a flood, and then you talk about the Great Flood, it doesn't mean they're all talking about the Great Flood. It could just be every civilization has a flood, so then that's what they're writing down. And then we just assume they're talking about the same one. Like, I don't think the world flooded all over and it did that Noah's Ark thing, but every civilization has had a flood. And once you start learning, I guess at that point, for me, it was be diving into the history of different cultures. For instance, the history, if it's the same time period, whatever, let's say 2022, let's say today, my history over here in America is going to be different from your history. We're living in two different realities, but we share the same plane of existence. So then you just look at everything in history. Why is it like Christopher Columbus is doing his own thing, but then another civilization over, they discovered something else? And then you take another example, which would be Plato. Plato is speaking about Atlantis. Atlantis could be real, but it might not be the Atlantis that he wrote about. It might not be the one
That's right.
where they talk about futuristic underwater sea beings. Instead, it just might be a civilization with an advanced maritime culture where they maybe navigated the ships and the seas and everything like that better than other civilizations, and they figured that out first. But Plato had a lot of weird stuff. He basically thought of AI before AI even existed. His was more magical, like use magic and do all these things. And then AI is kind of the exact same thing, but less magic, more science based.
And magic is science that hasn't been figured out yet.
I want to go back to what you said about the gods. So do you think that the Egyptians were seeing these things that they wrote down as gods are aliens?
Yeah, I think it could be.
It's fair.
But like I'm also getting like information sort of third hand. Know what I mean? So it's not like I'm researching this myself. It's just like, well, it seems logical.
But it's sparking up an interest at least.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Because it also changes the way you think. Like I've been raised in like a big religious capacity. So it changes kind of the ground that you walk on and your mindset, your perception of things. Because a lot of things you attribute to God and to religion. And then you wonder why like people like bash religion. They're like, they're liars, it's all a conspiracy and whatnot. And then like there's some information that comes out and you're sort of like, well, you know what? That kind of does make sense. And you allow yourself to challenge it and it's freaky. And I guess that's the plane that I'm on at the moment is like, what do I kind of believe in right now? And it's like the shifting sands.
Do you find yourself coming up with more of an existential crisis recently, or has this been going on for an extended period of time?
No, this is probably more recently. The more I hear about this like ancient civilization thing and whatnot, it could all be bullshit. You know what I mean? But I think for me, it's well, you are in a place where you can challenge and kind of look past the dogmatic learnings and teachings that have been passed to you. I think it's also to do with my parents as well. Like my father was one religion. He was Jehovah's Witness, kind of forced us to go to that church. My mom was Catholic. And I probably leaned more into the Catholic side of things. and it's about almost outgrowing your parents and the teachings that you kind of received to, I guess, forge your own path. It's like the fork in the road, and then you went straight.
See, the bad part about that is that if you find your own path and it's necessarily the opposite of what your parents kind of raised you on, that you might not be able to talk with your parents again. You know what I mean? Like it might be that like I think I don't know how many people during this pandemic like lost relationships with their family members over like Trump shit. Like they were like, I'm banning you because you're a Trump. And it's just like you're watching that all unfold. It's like you guys are like going to be at the same Thanksgiving together and you're banning each other and you're not talking. Like that's the weird part is like I just got lucky that like my parents didn't give a shit about a lot of things. So it was like, go explore for yourself. But I do find it hard because like the JFK topic has been such of heavy interest to me of recently that when I try and talk about it, nobody wants to fucking listen to me rant about it. I'm like, damn it. It's like got an itch you
Do you
can't
kind of
scratch.
find do you kind of find though that when you bring up JFK, you get like the whole another fucking conspiracy theorist?
I
Is that the response?
I didn't notice that at first, but I started talking about it at work and people would walk away or roll their eyes. And then I'm like, but look, I got the documents to back up some of this stuff. I don't even want to
Yeah.
talk about it, but it's just that type of thing where you start looking through like, what are things that people either want to entertain or don't want to entertain? And that's kind of why I ask you that question. Like, what's your stopping point? Like, what's one thing now that you wouldn't even go down the route of talking about because you just can't believe it, you can't get there to it.
Mm.
Say JFK, I'll fucking convince you right now.
You're waiting. Got like your portfolio and everything. Um, I don't know.
If someone says JFK, I'm gonna pull out a fucking brochure and shit and just sit them down and be like, let me show you something. Let me walk you through this.
You should. You should like everything that you're doing, you should have it in every form.
I wish I could keep
So
all that
people
knowledge in there, but I'm having even a tough time. Like sometimes I'm remembering what episodes people were on. Like 993, like that was a fucking pull out of the back corner, I think. Back door, maybe.
yeah. And I think that was the third time that I was on. um, what was the question again?
If you had one thing that you could challenge or one thing that you just couldn't, okay, two separate questions then. One that you would really like to enjoy talking about, like aliens is a good example, but one thing you specifically, not third hand knowledge, you specifically. If it's cooking, that's fine. We can talk about that. Then the other question would be something that you just won't even entertain. You don't want to talk about. You find it like that's the load of crap. You don't like anything that happens to do with what I guess maybe you have been taught.
Ooh. Okay. One thing that I'd love to talk about is probably cooking because I've
Okay.
been on like this cooking like trip at the moment.
Oh fuck. I thought you were about to be like, I was on Martha Stewart's show. I was like, no shit. Tell me about it. I had a guest that told me he was on The Price is Right, and I like lost my mind. I don't know why that was so
Holy
fascinating to me.
shit.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Did he guess the price?
No, his one of his friends won like I think it was a car or something like that.
A jet ski.
Yeah. They give you shit that you don't need. So he told me he goes, what they do is they survey the people who they're going to invite onto the show. It's all not like random. It's all pre-planned, obviously. And he goes, what they do is they check out your profile, they give you a little questionnaire, and then they give you a gift that you necessarily can't use. So if you live in Arizona, they're giving you a jet ski. So you live in the middle of the desert and they give you a fucking jet ski. And he goes, because then you're not going to choose that option. You're going to keep playing. And then that's when you lose. So they don't have to give you it. And I'm like, damn, that sucks. Bob Barker, you asshole. I was kidding.
And then the thing that I probably would never entertain talking about would be
Jesus.
Jesus.
That was great. That was great. I said it and then you said it right after. That's great.
I actually don't know because I'm open to talking about everything.
It's good. That's a good way to be.
What is it?
I thought I was really good at that, I'll be honest. I don't I think I'm pretty open to a lot of stuff. Um, but there's one stopping point I do have, and my buddy will like message me. He's like, I noticed someone hit your stopping point. And it's like when someone can consider something so inconceivable that they won't even engage in the conversation about it. Like, I'll talk flat earth stuff. I don't believe it. I'll talk anything. But like when you have conclusive evidence behind you and you have points, I just don't like the devaluing of someone else's perspective. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy, but it's not difficult to just like talk with someone about it. Even if you want to like condescendingly be like, so why do you think the earth is flat? That's not bad. But like when you devalue someone is when they go off on a fucking tirade and shoot up a place or a building or something.
Wow. um, yeah, probably uh, when people make excuses to why they're not doing something as a reason not to do it.
Can I have
That's
an
probably
can I have an example?
yeah. So like if I said, man, like you should get a car, you should like get your driver's license or something, and someone will say, nah, just like, I don't want a driver's license. I live right next to a train station or something like that. It's like, it's not really. But then they always ask for lifts to places, or they take a Uber everywhere.
That's a good point. I was gonna say like, well, maybe he doesn't want to pay car insurance. I mean, cars are kind of a hassle in a sense as well, too. I know
Tell me
from
about it.
diving into the JFK topic, I was letting everybody know, hey, I'm in a great place in my life. My car works perfectly fine. So if you see in the news that I died in a car accident or I committed suicide, just know it was the government. Like I brought that up because I saw like here's where I say like I used to think a lot of like stuff like that world order stuff was crazy talk. But then I see an article about Ghislaine Maxwell and she says Ghislaine Maxwell on suicide watch. And then the next day she's in the news like, I'm not on suicide, like I'm not suicidal. I'm like, oh shit, that's how you know the government's after you. That's so when she has to come out and be like, wait a minute, that's not true. And it's just like she's like trying to make media and they're like trying to push her off screen and everything like that. She didn't know what she's talking about. She's depressed. It's like, hang on a second.
Yeah, far out. Are you gonna do something like that next? Going to Epstein and everything? The island?
I actually might start making like documentary stuff. I'm having a lot more fun with that. And I realize like I have enough content out there to where I could actually have basically an already resume to where I could just invite anybody I needed to. Like I want to work on Manson next, or I wanted to work on People's or Jonestown, where all those people died. I think it was like 900 something people died from drinking Kool-Aid and shit. So it's like I'd like to talk about a lot of this stuff because, like, I mean, just scrolling through like government documents, you realize like what you were told necessarily isn't the actual truth of things. And I get it. Like, obviously, that would be labeled as conspiracy work or something like that. But, like, dude, it's fucking fascinating. Like, I like looking through government documents. I would probably make a career out of it if I could.
Hmm. I mean, you might be on like what's that magazine that is it Deadspin?
What for? I get killed?
It sounds like it. There's a magazine, and they broke the Manti Teo story where he was dating someone online, and then it ended up that he wasn't dating anyone. Like it was fake. The whole thing was fake, and he was told like the girlfriend died, didn't die. It was actually a guy that was playing him.
I don't know the
It was
story.
bad.
Never, I've never heard of this person.
Really? There's a documentary actually on Netflix. So when you go there, there's like a series of documentaries called Untold, right? And in that one is Untold Manti Teo, I think, or the girlfriend who never existed or some shit like that. But it is the wildest story. It's this guy that's like fully religious and everything, committed, is in the Polynesian community from Hawaii. And he goes to college and plays football, right? Then he's sort of like, he's finding his feet and everything, but he's killing football. That's his shit right there. Then finds this chick online, or this chick finds him basically, And then they spark this relationship, and it's going, it's going, it's going for like years. And then all of a sudden, he gets a call from this person. He's like, "Oh, she's died." It's like, what the fuck?
I
And his
wait. Okay, go back to what you're saying. I'm sorry.
and then like his whole world spirals out of control, right? Because a family member of his dies and all sorts of shit happens. But then the person that's scamming him basically won't let go. And they're like, "Oh wait, she's alive again." It's like, what is happening? So, and the way that that documentary like fucked with this guy's head, or like what was shown in the documentary was that online relationship really fucked with this guy's head, and he just like he never recovered. His career in the NFL, like he had a 10-year run playing for different teams, but he did not hit his potential because of like this online relationship scam thing. And he found out the truth as well. The craziest thing is he forgave her at the end.
I'm gonna you just gave me an idea of who I wanted to make a documentary about. James Brown.
The singer? The soul singer.
Yes.
I feel good.
If if I can get this, if my computer loads this, I'm gonna play it for you. So I'm pretty sure it was James Brown, but I'm pretty sure he got arrested for waving a shotgun at somebody after they took a dump in his toilet.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that is
that's the
James Brown.
movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So James Brown, have you ever seen the CNN interview where he was on like cocaine?
No, no, I haven't.
Dude, it's fucking nuts, man. Hang on a second. I want to see if I can get this to play real quick. Okay, all right, hold on. I think I got it. I think I got it. Hold on. All right, it might just be giving me a All right, yeah, I have to look it up on YouTube real quick. No, because James Brown was in this interview on CNN, and they were interviewing him and asking him things like, like, how are you doing? He's like, I feel great. He's like on like his teeth are like they're so like there's something like God, dude, hold on. This is gonna take me a sec. We might have to pause and do this. I'm sorry. I don't want dead air, but
No, you're right, man.
James Brown cocaine interview. It's like, how you feeling? He's like, I feel great. And they're like, why do ladies love you? Why do ladies love me? It's like, yeah, why do ladies love you? Because I feel good, I smell good, and I make love good. I'm like, oh my God.
He was so sure of himself.
That's the confidence you want, though. I mean, do you want someone
Yeah,
being like
that's
annoying?
right.
Wait a minute. James Brown being what did that just say? Time out. Hold on. Play that real quick. Skip the ad. Why do they always give me like a 10-minute ad on stuff? Oh no, it's a dude narrating it. I don't want a dude commentating it. I just want to see James Brown high on drugs. Literally, there's quotes. He's the best interview. James Brown on drugs. This is great. Hang on a second. We're going to play it. Here we go. Share sound. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? I better not get a copyright strike for this. That would suck.
I'm seeing a black square.
Wait till it pops up. My computer is it still black square? Or are you
Yeah.
seeing James Brown?
Nope.
What is happening right now? Is it screen sharing?
A screen share. Oh, okay. Yeah, it popped up.
Thank God. Can you hear it now?
Welcome you, James Brown. How did all of this trouble begin?
Can you hear it?
in America. There's nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong at all. You're not in any difficulty, but you're out on bond.
No, I'm not.
You don't want to talk about what happened.
No, it's all over.
Well, your fans will have read all about this, James. Aren't you concerned about that?
I'm concerned because there's nothing wrong.
And what are you going to say to your fans when they ask you some questions about it?
Because
What
I
do you
look
think
good.
that is? You
I
look
smell good. I
Yes.
feel good.
And you sing good.
And make love good.
Oh. Well, there we are. We don't have to ask anybody else. We got that from the source. There you are. You're going to be doing this tour.
What'd you say?
What are you going to be doing on this tour?
This is a man's world.
Thanks for reminding us of that. Every once
I'm sorry. That was a little bit chopped up, but that's essentially what it was. She would ask a question, and he'd be like, tonight, tonight, tonight. And it's like he would just start like he was grinding his teeth. And it was just like he looks like a goddamn Thundercat with his hair all like that. Orange frames on his. I'm sorry. I took us off on the dark. That was a dumb thing. I shouldn't even pulled it up. It was funny to me.
He's a legend. He's so cool.
You got to understand, like what I started to like, I actually reached out to some people to talk about this, and it was threat analysis or risk assessment based on celebrities. And when you reach celebrity, it's much like being a billionaire. For me, in my personal belief, I think you should get a separate set of rules. If you have $1 billion or $180 billion like Bezos does, I think you need to start classifying in a different category, not just paying more taxes, but I think you need to classify under a different set of rules. If you can send William Shatner up into space, you do not go by the rules of normal civilians who can't even make it to their fucking doctor's appointment on time because their car broke down. So in my opinion, celebrities, they have a different understanding of things. And this is how I was explained to by a psychologist about this, that not only do they have to understand that every person that they come up to has an unrealistic expectation or unrealistic personality of who you are. Like, for instance, me and you being podcasters, if we have one fan who's a hardcore fan that listens to every single thing that we do and knows a lot about us, then when you meet that person, they already have their resume built up about you. You don't know this person, so they come at you thinking that, oh my God, this person's been in my car, this person's been in my house, this person's been in my head, because they're wearing headphones and it's very intimate in that sense. And most of the time you could be broadcasted on a television or something like that. So they're coming at you at like a level 1,000, wanting to give you a hug. And you're like, hold on a second. Same thing with Brad Pitt. At no point in history is that person's face as close as a screen is to your face. They don't see that though. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. So like there's people, like if you ever look up the weirdest things that have ever been sent to like a celebrity, people have sent fingers. People have sent like a bunny that was murdered. They killed it and sent it to him, and he goes, I killed this because its beauty doesn't match how beautiful you are. And it's like shit like that, like the horror stories you read. And it's just like, oh my God. And you start realizing like, yeah, they go by a different thing. When you see Justin Bieber get pissed off at a person filming every aspect of his life, no shit, he's tired of it. Kanye can't even go out to his car without the freaking paparazzi trying to get a cooter shot of him, like down the.
But you know who's cool with the paparazzi and actually has time and like will actually have a conversation? Dave Chappelle. A lot of controversy
Until he gets tackled.
Yeah, well, he sorted that guy out. Did you see that guy's head afterwards? Jesus. He looked like he was growing like a rhinoceros horn out of his fucking head. It was wild.
What were we talking about before we got onto documentaries? We were talking about something. You were mentioning something that you couldn't entertain, and I forgot what that was.
People that make excuses as a reason not to do it, not to do something.
But you mentioned something before that, and it was about the Vatican. And do you not think it's strange that the Vatican considers itself its own country? And then they have like an archive that I think
Exactly.
I think for like the past every year, they're translating 1.8 million documents that are in the archives per year onto digital in case there's ever like some type of fire. And as soon as I saw that article, I was like, that's how you know it's going to be an accidental fire. When someone's getting like insurance money and they're like, oh, it was Greek lightning. It was like, it was a fucking sunny day. What do you mean? Like when my Wendy's burned down, they said it was Greek lightning. And I was like, what? Like it was a sunny day when it caught fire. You're saying Greek lightning and it's an insurance claim.
What is Greek lightning?
That's the thing, is like it's just bullshit. It's like God's threw a lightning bolt and it's like an excuse.
It's the first time that I've heard that.
But that's like a common tactic. If you look at like some people like, oh, it was an accidental fire. It's like, what do you mean, Vinny? It was an accidental fire. It was Greek lightning. It was like, what?
I'm gonna start using that from now on.
I mean, I look, I get it, but I think when you get into damn it, I forgot what we were talking about again. This is what the hardest part about my show is that when it's not scripted and you're not going through stuff, I think we've hit like 80 different topics and we haven't finished one yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were talking about the Vatican backing up shit.
Oh yeah, so they're backing up their files digitally, but because they said in case like something happens, they don't want to lose all their files, which I mean makes sense, but I think like there's like I saw an article where they were talking about speculation about like what could be in the Vatican archives. And they mentioned like the house arrest records for Galileo when they locked him on house arrest. I mean, I don't think a lot of people even know the full story of that. This guy who said that, hey, the planets don't revolve around Earth. We actually revolve around the sun. And they locked him on house arrest because it was going against the church. And I mean, he pissed the church off basically, but they went farther than that. It wasn't just locking him on house arrest. It meant like people would deliver food to his house, and these like people in the church and people that were just part of the community that didn't like him would stop these people from delivering food to his door. Like they would just take their food, rob them, do whatever they possibly could to make sure this guy didn't get his food delivery. So they might have those in there. People speculate JFK stuff's in there. I don't think it's all that, but I mean, it's the best place to store some of your shit. If you're the government and you don't want people filing Freedom of Information Acts, you can just not give it to them. Or you could be like, we don't have it. You're not lying that you don't have it. You gave it to the Vatican to store in their archives. The issue is, do you have a relationship with the church where you can trust them to not use that against you at one point?
It would explain why so many countries, like sort of white led countries, are what's his face? Christian countries.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think it's just mostly because Christianity was like a very, very large religion. Like maybe this was my conversation with your brother about this, but when Trey was on, it's Trey, right? I'm making sure I don't get that wrong.
Triz,
damn it.
yeah.
I haven't talked to Triz in like what? Like I think it was episode 900 or 800 or something. Yeah, it's been a while. But when we were talking about like Assassin's Creed and like the Viking, the new one when it was new, which was like I forgot what it wasn't Odyssey, it was the one after Odyssey. The Valhalla, yeah. So I had a friend of mine who's a Viking historian, and she talked about like all the Vikings when they came over here, and it's in a little bit of that game where it does show that part of coming to this new land, and you start seeing monoliths and churches and all these types of things that they consider ridiculous because it's not how their religion goes. And that was just like, I mean, Christianity took over such widespread. So it's, I think being Catholic and being Christian were like two competing religions for a while. Then Christianity kind of took over. And then I don't know, everything's down. It's such a low percentage. I think the last time I checked the percentage of people that were religious, there's like 50 something percent of people that weren't religious at all or choose to worship at home. And I think it's just the conformity of it all. Like, you got to understand, before technology, going to church was like a way to fucking hang out with people. You know, you were in the same groups. It was a giant thing. And there are some family households that are still like that, go to church every Sunday, worship, pray, and all that stuff. That's fine. But it's not the majority anymore.
Yeah, that's right. It's not the thing that you do on Sunday anymore. Yeah. But I am fine with anyone having faith. Like, I love the idea. You know what I mean? There's good learnings in the church. I'm never against the church at all, in any way, shape, or form. And there's no one off screen like holding a gun to my face or anything.
That's what it sounded like. It's what it sounded like. It's like, yes. Off screen, we'll talk about
it. Yeah, it's crazy. Like you were talking about the rules that apply to celebrities and whatnot, or they should have rules. That's how the Vatican is. It's its own state. It's like it's protected. It's like got archives and no one knows what's in there. Right? There could be anything. Could be a UFO in there or a UAP in there.
Yeah.
We don't know.
It's better than a government base where fucking people are just staring at with binoculars and just waiting for you to, it's like something to come across. Maybe Bigfoot's there. I don't know.
Maybe Elvis is there.
I definitely like probably validate more things than I probably would have before. Like I would have like tried really hard at the beginning of the show to like come up with like a logical, like scientific answer to stuff. But then after speaking with so many people and like just learning about perspectives and stuff, I'm like, damn it, like you have to like I validate anybody's like I've talked to UFO experiencers. I've talked to people that tell you it's not real. I've talked to conspiracy people and I've talked to the people that debunk the conspiracies. And I think I probably have more difficulty trying to talk to the debunkers. Um, like some of the top guys, like Mick West and Michael Shermer have been on the show, and like they just don't. And I mean, they make up reasonable points to stuff, but also they don't really like. They go out of their way to debunk stuff. That's what I don't like. Is like I don't like the whole like dismissing. Like if you said to me right now, like what's the craziest thing you don't really tell people because people just roll their eyes at you.
Ugh, jeez.
That you like a cooking show. That's a good one. I'm just kidding. I would say like if someone brought up like aliens or I experienced aliens, and like what these debunkers do is they go after and trying to check, are you psychologically well? Are you all these types of things? But they do it like in an arrogant way. And that's what I just like. That's where you get people that just end up getting pissed off that you're trying to invalidate their experience and stuff. Like I would never laugh at you if you told me that you were interested in stuff. I would joke with you, but I'm joking. I would never like like out of my way, make you seem like an idiot or something. No, that's not. But you're like, we're jumping around everywhere. Let's go to the cooking thing. That's important. When you said you liked cooking shows, I was like, you like watching fucking people like cook stuff? That sounds all like British Bake Off. Like, oh my God. If I have to hear someone talk about the crust thickness and how moist the crust is, I'll throw up. But then you talked about, no, I like the experience behind the people that do these shows. And I'm like, okay, I don't like Bear Grylls, but I like Anthony Bourdain. I like hearing the stories and experiences of trying heroin and, going down this horrible fucking trip and then coming out of life with this newfound experience and a new wholeness for value of food and things of that sort. That's interesting.
Man, I don't know. Chefs at one point were like fucking rock stars. Like Anthony Bourdain wrote this book, Kitchen Confidential, which is an autobiographical tale of the first, I don't know, 20 years of his life in the kitchen, right? And how he got his start. The first scene is like fucking Goodfellas. So basically, he's learning like where everything kind of fits in the kitchen, right? But then this bride to be this bride who got married on the day comes to him and he's like, comes to the chef, the head chef of the kitchen. It's like, hey, have you got like anything that we could like smoke or like pop pills or whatever? And the chef's like, all right, yeah, I got something. How much have you got on you? And the chick's like, oh, I don't have that much. He said that there were all these chefs looking out the back window as the chef that's like supplying the drugs, right, is just plowing this chick behind this dumpster outside. And he said, in that moment, I wanted to be a chef.
I think I learned more about because I worked at a hotel for a while and I learned more about the kitchen and how difficult it was and all the stress that they have to go. And I like that's why I wouldn't say I really don't eat out anymore. I at least go to restaurants and stuff, but I definitely have an understanding a little bit more about the kitchen. Plus, I have friends who own food trucks and they explain about the hassle. I mean, any type of situation where you're in like it's 100-degree day or something and you're working in a kitchen that's probably 120, it's a little bit more than that, and you have to rush around, create food, make orders, and you just have certain moments where there's nobody ordering anything. But then you have like the lunch rush, then you have like dinner rush, and then you're literally busting ass for 2.5 hours, not nonstop screaming and yelling. And that's what they told you when you enter the kitchen usually is like, hey, leave your feelings at the door because people are going to say shit to you. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be edgy. It's going to be racist. It's going to be a bunch of stuff, but don't take it personally. Just understand that it's the best way to get pressure out. And that's the best kitchens I've seen run have been like where people are just brutal as hell. But then afterwards they're drinking a beer after work or something. It's just like, okay,
That's right.
how you want your food done. They don't do that at Chipotle. That's why I don't trust them. I don't see anybody yell when can I get more beef for my burrito? And they're like, sir, if I do that, I won't be able to close it. I'm like, fucking try. And they're just like, I want them to yell back at the person, be like, no, I told you no more beef. Well, can I get a side of corn? You've already had enough. And then they're just like rolling up to the thing, toss it at you like a fucking pig. I've never been good with ordering sandwiches at Subway, any of these places. I would always be like, make it how you would
Really?
make it. I'm just make it how you would make it. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't like telling people what I want. Like, not like, I don't know what I want to eat. This is just like, make it how you would make it. You know what's good. You know what's about to expire. Make what a food you would make to yourself. And I learned that because in my town, they have a thing called a Wawa, which is like a gas station where you can order subs. They have a thing called Hoagie Fest. It's like for a foot long is $5, anything you want, really. My buddy used to work there when I first started working out. So I'd be like, I need protein. I need all this type of stuff. Like it's how you usually are when you first work out. You're like, I need to get my carbs. I need to get the, and I'm just like,
Yeah, my macros.
yeah, I'm just like, I like cheesesteak, just the cheesesteak, but I like lettuce and tomato and black pepper. That's all I ever want. And he would like double it up for me. And he goes, I could tell you what's good and I can make you what's right. Like what's about to expire, I'm not going to give you. I'll give you the fresh stuff. And then I just started doing that at every restaurant I went to that was like an order thing like that. If I'm not self-ordering from a screen and someone's making a sandwich, I'm like, it's good. Just make me whatever. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. I'm not going to complain about it. So it's just like, for me, I've always had a very great experience doing that. And it's like a small trick. People, you never know what you like unless you try it. And a lot of people aren't trying things that are new. So it's like, you might as well just take that experience. I mean, it's hard. Like I wouldn't go to like a restaurant you've never been to before and be like, what's good? No, like if you're allergic to curry, don't let the guy order you a fucking soup special. That's a curry. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. What I do, like why I'm like so interested in the cooking aspect, right? Is because like I'm trying to get to this place where I'm not having any leftovers. So I'm trying to incorporate everything that we have into a sandwich. So I once
have you ever thought of just being
I even
poor?
threw
Being
fucking
poor.
those ramen noodles.
That's just being poor. It's not being like a cook. That's just being poor.
I know, but the creativity needed to balance flavors to get the structure of the sandwich right. What are you going to use as a sandwich? I used a fucking cheese scone as a sandwich, and it was beautiful.
What's your most poor creation you've ever made? Like it could be really, really good, but it was like a snack or a thing that you would make that was just like I'll give you an example. 2 slices of white bread, place a piece of cheese on each slice, put pepperoni on each piece, and stick in the microwave for 10 seconds. That was a childhood staple. And then I grew up and I was like, wait a minute, we were just fucking poor. Like I just didn't realize it, but that was like a simple treat. What's one for you?
Well, for me, it would probably be like that, but like tomato sauce. And then you put it in this thing called it's like a sandwich thing that like has the cutout triangles. Have you guys got those?
We might,
It's
but
basically like
I'm poor, so I don't know what that is.
it's a sandwich press, but it seals the edges,
Boy,
and it's
like, could you make it uncrustable without like,
yeah.
uh, no shit. Okay.
Yeah. So you can like if the bread is big enough, right? Because the bread always sticks out because these things are like it's not adjustable. And not all bread is like made the same.
Mhm.
So like it basically like you put it in there, put all your fillings in, and then you put the top on the bread, and then you press that shit down, right? And it seals everything. It's like a pie sandwich maker.
You said all bread's not made the same. Are you a breadist?
No,
Okay.
I'm a bread enthusiast.
Would you accept pumpernickel the same as you would accept a nice sourdough?
You know what? I would because I don't engage in predatory behavior. Huh?
Oh, I don't know unless you have a machine press in your house. I've never heard of that before. Sorry.
Um, the poorest thing that I've probably ever come up with is now, and it's like ramen noodles, right? But I throw whatever lunch meat I have in there. So it could be ham, could be chicken, could be whatever. Chuck it in there. I put whatever spices I have in the cupboard. Could be cayenne pepper, chili flakes, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper. Chuck that in there. Bit of soy sauce. The seasonings from it. I take another brand of cheap noodles. And I chuck that in there as well, and the shit becomes like a broth. If I have leftover chicken, I'll chuck that in there as well. Whatever to make it like, more flavorful. Gravy sometimes is really good. And you chuck the yeah, no, it adds to it, man. It really adds to it.
This is
And
the
then
reason
you
why I asked that question was because whatever you think is like the best thing creation, for some person, it's going to be absolutely awful. Like when I was a kid, I thought we could make so much money selling those those pepperoni cheese sandwich things. We never even thought of a name for it. But then everyone else, like that, I would, friends I would have over, like, oh God, that's disgusting. I'm like, what? It's just like it's like a pizza, but there's without like all the like the actual like tomato sauce that you put on it. And then you realize like, but it's like going to a friend's house when you're a kid and you realize not everybody eats the same shit.
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Like my buddy, all he would eat was like his dad would cook up burgers and hot dogs all the time. And I was like, at this point, like I was so used to having like fish and all this type of stuff where I was like, I don't really want a burger. And his dad's like, what the fuck do you want then? It
Who
should have
is this
came
kid? Who invited him?
should have came over on taco night, man. I'm like, when's taco night? He's like, Tuesdays. I'm like, that's a school day. He's like, why are you in school? I'm like, I'm 10. Like, school.
That's what we do. What is the weirdest sandwich you've ever been given after saying, "Make me what you would eat"?
Anything with mayo.
Wow.
I fucking
Okay.
hate mayo. Oh God.
Wow.
It makes me sick to my stomach when I see like it was like when I was a kid in school and I'm just making sure I was okay. All right. Yeah. I had to look up my buddy's dad on Facebook. I was like, he's like he's always saying something like he comments like a video of mine or something. But when it's a mayo sandwich, and I think it's like when I was in school and I would sit in the cafeteria and people would get like if you order lunch, you get like a chocolate milk, you get like a regular milk, and then there was that kid that got strawberry. And I don't know why to me it was so disgusting. But then once I got like my taste buds changed, once I got older, like I got out of school and everything, I could handle strawberry milk. That sounds delicious. But like, I don't know, like when your taste buds change when you're a kid from when you're an adult, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's just because you're more broke and you realize you have to try and make whatever works just to survive. I don't know.
It's true. It's very, very true. Um, in in my household growing up, we would have like an egg sandwich. We'd call them toasted eggs, right? But all it would be tomato with like seasoning, salt and pepper on there, onion, fresh onion, and then a fried egg, like sunny side up, yolk still runny, everything. And then you'd like toast the bread in the pan with everything in there, and then that'd be the sandwich. And it was fucking excellent.
That's fair. I don't eat normal breakfast, I would say. I'm mostly like normal to me cereal. I eat cereal. That's fine. But like some people like oatmeal. I hate oatmeal. I can't do oatmeal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. See, but that's not a breakfast sandwich. We would have that for dinner.
Oatmeal?
No, no, the
Oh.
egg
Oh, okay.
sandwich.
Well, if you're eating breakfast for dinner, it's probably because someone's hungover. That's what I figured out when I was a kid. Like my dad would be like, French toast for dinner. I'm like, either you can't cook anything else, and I know he can, or you're hungover. And he's like, it's one of the two. That's for sure. I'm like, all right, so we're going with the second one for sure.
Uh, but the tastiest sandwiches I've found have mayo on them. Like, you know how you have like a BLT,
I'm not
right?
even going to entertain the discussion. That's one thing. Like I just can't. Whenever I see it in somebody's house, I'll choose any, like if there's a condiment I need to use, like a hot sauce or something, and it's next to the mayo in the fridge, I will not use the hot sauce because it's right beside the mayo and I don't even want to look at it. It just makes me physically ill.
What about sriracha mayo? Not even sriracha mayo.
I don't even know what is that a mayo has sriracha in it?
Yeah, that's a thing.
I've never heard
That's a
of that.
big thing.
All right. Well,
Tabasco's got one.
there's a lot of things I don't know about. Like there's like 80 different types of peanut butter I didn't know about. I thought like there's crunchy and they're smooth. And they're like, no, we got the one with the
Yeah.
jelly in it. We got the one that's has the water in it. And you're like, what's water in it? Well, it's the oils from the butter that actually go. I'm like, see, what do you have to do with it before you open it? Well, you dump the juice. Well, why don't I just get the one that doesn't have juice in it? Well, that's not as healthy as the one with juice in it. Are you sure? That does not
Fuck.
sound right.
No, it doesn't. Like, we only legit have the crunchy, the smooth, and then they have all this other shit like whole peanuts and organic, which I've never tried. I will never go out for like organic or whole peanut butter.
I know it's just way more money. I'm gonna just say one more thing, and then I gotta ask you about something. But I remember my nephew. He's so used to eating smooth peanut butter that when I gave him a peanut butter sandwich with, he's like 4, with crunchy peanut butter in it, he bit into it, and the look of betrayal that I got from him wasn't necessarily that he wasn't happy with the peanut butter. It's just like you weren't expecting it to have that crunch, and it's just like this look
Yeah.
of like, what did you like? Did I just break a
You
tooth?
poisoned me.
Did I just like, did you slip a pill in my food? And it's like, you just realize like so many people are so used to the same routine or the same things of how they do things every single day that when it's
Yeah.
not necessarily the same, they like, there's this moment of like, oh shit, I got to remember that it's not like this for everybody. Like you probably have a bunch of daily
Mhm.
stuff that you don't even realize that other people don't do.
Mm. Yeah. And I like operate within like a big structure. Like there's yeah. Like I have a structure for my morning and looking after my son, then I have my work process and then like what I do when I get home from work, and it's all structured.
I'm sorry, when you said big structure, I just pictured you putting like on a factory top hat, like one of those hard hats, and like grabbing one of those steel lunch boxes and just carrying it into like a steel working factory. I'm like you work at a factory, big structure factory, big structure. You're like, no, just my
I
daily
do
routine
actually.
is you do. Do you really steal
Not I don't work at like a steel mill or factory, but I work at a warehouse.
Amazon?
No. No, I can't um say which one, unfortunately, but it's probably like one of the biggest warehouses.
Google,
It's not a tech company at all.
Walmart.
No, we don't
Oh,
have Walmart in Australia, unfortunately, which sucks.
what do you guys
Jealous of
have
that.
besides Walmart?
Uh, man, we got like Kmart, we got Target,
What
we
the
got Big
fuck is
W.
Kmart and Target doing over in Australia? That's nuts. I don't even think we have those here anymore.
Kmart is the fucking best place to go. I always go for one thing, like a light bulb or something, and like roll out with a trolley full of shit.
Oh, that's how they get you. They keep everything in the back what you need. And then it's like the
The
stores move
Kmart
around.
trap.
Like where you walk in, you're like, I know the vegetables are as soon as I walk in, it's the first thing you walk into the grocery store. There's vegetables right there. But then like the one time that's what you're only going there for, it happens to be at the back of the store. You're like, what the hell? They're like, oh, we were reorganizing. I'm like, you son of a bitch. I'm gonna walk past all the cool shit. That's what my parents
That's
would
the
do when we go to the store. They like cover your eyes and walk you to where they need to go to get their because you're always asking for shit.
yeah, yeah. Like we got to a point where my dad was just like, "We're not getting anything. Don't even ask." I'd be like, "All right."
Well, don't even take your kids to the store. You know they're going to ask for something.
Yeah,
But if
big
I
time.
take
So
my
now
nephew,
I just
if I take my nephew to the store, I feel the need to get him something. I don't know why. I just ask him. Like he's looking at something. I'm like, you want that? Like, I don't know.
Now I voluntarily get my son stuff now. If I go solo to the shops and be like, chocolate bar, he likes that one. I'll grab that one.
Just thinking about others
Kids are
before yourself.
expensive.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
You gotta
right, we'll
put
put that spin on
you gotta put a yeah, let's say I was literally about to say you gotta put that positive spin on it.
it.
So the question I wanted to ask you is when in your life did you realize like did everything change for you about your family? Like when did you realize that your childhood idea of your family was different from your adulthood? Like
Oh shit.
when I graduated high school, my grandpa was just he cursed before, but it was just like a different level when I got out. And it was just more normal. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta mow the fucking lawn. I was like, before you used to make me do it. He's like, yeah. He's like, but now you're an adult. I can't make you do things anymore. I'm like, what? It's because I'm stronger than you? He goes, I will still take you down. I'm just like, okay. Okay, John Wayne. That's always what he used to watch.
Man, it'd be when I was 27 and I had kids. My whole idea of what my parents did and looking at it like, they did that to us as opposed to they did that for us. And it's not when you taste desperate and you're poor and you have money troubles and you kind of like fight tooth and nail to get to a better financial position that you actually understand that, oh shit, my parents did this. And I was like slating them the whole fucking way. Like, how come we don't have the stuff that, like, other people have? And it's like, well, all they were doing was surviving. And now I'm just surviving. So it's that understanding.
My buddy's 30 and he has like a 6-year-old kid. And he tells me all the time, he's like, there's so many things you don't know about until you have a kid, what the issues are. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if my kid goes to school and he talks about another kid that has like a really nice backpack. I have to buy my kid a backpack. And I'm like, well, no, you don't. You just let your kid use the backpack that you bought him before. He goes, no. You don't understand. I'm not going to let some other person's parent show me up and show my kid up. And I'm like, what? And you just realize like, oh shit, there's not only the fear of like making sure that your kid knows that you're not poor, like, oh, we're not poor. So you're buying them things. But now you have this aspect of like, I got to make sure I show the other fucking parents up. It's the whole reason there's an honor roll sticker on the back of people's cars when they have honor. And this is what I think I've ranted about this, like episode 600 of mine. I really went on a tear about this because it pissed me off so bad. There was a guy like those cars. I would wait in the driving line and I would stare at the back of their car. It would be honor roll student, again. And it was so covered all over their back windshield where you couldn't see out of it. Then it was labeled all the way down to their bumper. And I'm like, that's just to show off because you think that, oh, I'm a bad parent, but my kid's awesome. So I'm going to show off my kid to show how good of a parent I am. And I'm just like, my dad was always like, why can't you get like one of those? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you really want me to take school seriously? He's like, that's fair.
That's a good compromise. Man, for me, I don't compete with other parents. Like, fortunately, I don't like that's not something that I have to balance just mentally when I look at like parents dropping their kids off in a fucking Tesla or something, and I'm in a Subaru. Um, for me, it's am I kind of am I giving knowledge or am I just doing like the groundwork and they're just like expecting things? Like, for instance, I will cook most of the meals that my kids eat so that they don't associate dinner with a fucking doorbell and a delivery guy dropping shit off.
Damn. I didn't even think about that.
And also like money. Like, because they don't teach you shit in school, right? Like the school system's just fucked. Like
I,
what? Like
uh,
Pythagoras?
mhm.
Pythagoras? I'm not going to use that shit. But you know what would be great? Budgeting. Give me a fucking class on budgeting and how to balance that shit and taxes.
There's
That
essential
shit is
life
needed.
skills. There's essential life skills you need. And then I think school is beneficial though. I just wish that I'm not blaming the teachers for this. I'm really not. And I have friends that are
No.
teachers. I would just blame the
Yeah.
way that it's set
100%.
up. Like you can't expect a teacher to teach a class of 35 kids. But if I would have went back to school with how I am now, just very interested in like Shakespeare, interested in all that shit, I would, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
but my parents, in my opinion, got lucky. I don't think anybody would have thought that my curiosity would lead me into looking into a bunch of I like the government shit. I like looking through documents. I like the historical record about the Cold War, a spy history, people that have fucking blow darts in their umbrellas, real spies that have these crazy ass things, dude. That stuff's interesting to me. I'm that's my curiosity though. And hopefully my kid's curiosity is going to be the best thing you could do, like, and I would say is the worst thing is something that you mentioned, which is making sure that you're putting in more knowledge into your kid than you're not. And that's very hard to do because I think we all know the people that walk with their nose a little bit higher than the others. And they act like life is like this meaningless balance of chaos and order. And you're just like, fuck you. I want to the one guest that's the hardest for me to talk to on my show is anybody who's a philosopher, because it's philosophy is studying the meaning of life basically, or the meaning of principles of all these aspects. And when you research that as a job, you become a bit of a dick. I hate to say it like that, but it's some of them do it well. Some of them do it really well. But some people just feel it's that entitlement thing I hate. And it's yo, if you really consider people equal, then you should value my opinion as much as your own, or I'm not really your equal. And they don't look at it like that. They look at it like, I've been studying life longer than you, so I think I know what the meaning is. And I'm just like, well, so if you have a parent that does, I couldn't even imagine. I could not imagine being that child in that family where the dad's a philosopher. My dad was a fucking Kiss
Oh,
drummer. My dad was in a tribute band to Kiss, and he still is, I'm pretty sure.
that's awesome.
So
That's
my
so
parent
cool.
my parents are radio personalities and DJs. Nobody was fucking home. So it's figure shit out. So it's either play Xbox or just get onto some bad shit on the internet. I don't know. And then you just grow. And it's that's a probably a topic I'm more interested in. I might make a documentary about that. The digital world. How do you make it more
Latchkey kids.
well, how do you make the digital world a place where you understand what you're entering? I mean, I think when you talk about Google stealing your data and things of that sort, you also have to understand the other aspect to it, which is the fact is they make it free for you to access their services. That means if they're going to sell your
Hmm.
stuff, that's their right to. So then you just have to accept that. And for me, I spend less time on the internet.
Really?
You didn't
You
notice on
don't
my
go on
social
it?
media, I just post and ghost. I don't even stay on it that long.
Nah. But yeah, I did notice that on Twitter and stuff like that. It's just legit episode drop. I'm out.
Well, it's safer for your mental health. And I get people talk about oh, safer for your mental health. Some people roll their eyes oh my God, what do you have to worry about? But it's just it really is. If you're refreshing your follower count over and over again, if you spend way more time on social media, not enjoying real aspects of your life or just doing anything else, but you feel like you need to be on it all day, doing it because you're bored is one thing, but just doing it out of force of habit. It's weird. I'll be at my work and people will be on their Twitter or on their Instagram. And I'm just I'm so happy I don't deal with that anymore. It's just it's a demon.
To be honest, I do that. Like I'm constantly posting, and I feel like I have to constantly post, because you want to grow. As someone who runs a podcast, I want to grow. So what am I doing to make sure that I stay relevant? And that's why I'm on social media all the time. But man, like I did do the social media detox, and my chemicals were flowing freely after the month. That's for sure.
Do you feel the reliance of having to do it because you're the main producer of the podcast that you do, Smoke and Mirrors podcast?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to kind of set the direction. So what am I putting up that's content, and people are because people are gonna relate to something and then relate that to the show that you're making. So then you're trying to get people to join you on the journey, and that's how you grow a fan base, like an audience.
This is probably where I would focus if I did a documentary about the digital world. I would point out the giant danger of having every success or every sales pitch of a story of how to be successful happens to do now through the online platform. I don't believe it. I used to believe it all the time. I used to think like how you think, where I need to be posting, I need to make episode clips, I need to do that. Dude, I had Dr. Peter McCullough, and he's a great guy. I enjoy having him on the show, and I would have him on again. But he was like, "Can you make clips for your episode of ours so I could share it on my platform?" I was like, "I can't do that, dude. I don't have. It's not that I don't have the time. I just don't want to. You know what I mean?" And it's like anybody would be like, it's like imagine getting like a top guest, and you're like, "Oh my god, this person wants clips. I have to hurry up and make clips." That wasn't me. I was like, man, I mean, you can snip off whatever you want from the episode and post it on your thing, but I can't do it. It's not that I was trying to be rude. It's just like I just don't think that you need to always post or make these things for people to find your stuff. It might be different for your show, for instance. Like my posting less, I've gotten more views just because it's just word of mouth though. Like you got to understand, if you type in Rob Smith, that's it. Just type in Rob Smith. There's going to be a video link, and that video will be one of my episodes of you on my show. So imagine all the guests I've had, and then just typing in their name on Google, and then a video pops up with them in it, and then that person clicks into it. So, I mean, that's just the benefits of doing like I guess, a conversation with different people every day. But, for yours, it's anybody that types in like smoking or anything like that, you just got to get that up to the top of the charts. But dude, I couldn't do what you do, which is like posting and making like clips for stuff, thinking about what you guys are going to talk about, making sure that it's like, edited great. Like mine's like, I just snip off the beginning and the end and throw it in the episode. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, people like that or they don't, but the social media platform, like benefit to your growth is so nuts to me, where I'm like, that wasn't like that 100 years ago. That wasn't like that 50 years ago, 20 years ago.
Not at all. No, that's right. And the reason like clips are a big thing and TikTok is such a big thing is because people need like small bite-sized little pieces to get an in, just a peek inside. And if that's like, enough to kind of entice them to your platform and like they want to watch the full thing, that's kind of why I do it.
Your production value is definitely way better than mine, though.
Yeah, but like, is it really the shiny wrapper or is it the content inside? Because like, how many people are drawn to, outside of Joe Rogan, like what's the other show that actually has long form content? Like you put out a fucking 9-hour episode.
When?
You know what I mean? For 9/11.
Oh yeah,
You
that
said you
was
had
long.
9
Yeah.
hours
Well,
worth of content.
it was 6 hours with 4 different people, and it would have been longer too, but Spotify has an upload limit on how long you can do an episode. So I was like, damn, that's a good thing. When I do my film, it's going to be on Spotify too.
Because you're through Anchor?
Yeah, but I'm going to put it up on there because it'll have video. So at least you can see it. Because that was the thing. If I make a film, I can make it free and not have to worry about copyright stuff, because anything JFK related is copyright. But then if I did the more way that would be better for me as a person, but it would be kind of shitty for other people, would be I would charge $2.99 and upload it to Netflix, upload it to all these other streaming services. But then I'd have to go through getting documentation, written down agreements of using these people's, like so much bullshit. But you don't really know until you start making. It's like when you do a podcast, you don't know all the behind the work stuff until you start doing it. The same thing with a film. So I was like, I'll just make it free and then I'll upload it like to all the podcast platforms. So some of them have video, so you'll be able to watch it and it'll get more exposure out there. Plus, it's a fucking passion project, and I could put it on IMDb. So
Yeah. Yeah. And the last one was awesome. The
no, it
blank
wasn't.
film.
No, it wasn't. It was terrible. For me, like I like all that stuff. Like what I like to do on YouTube probably more now, like I don't like paying for movies and like really high camera. Like someone says, "Oh, it's an award-winning film that comes out." That's cool and all, but I like seeing like content created stuff. Like if you made a movie, if other people made a movie, more of that independent type stuff. I just appreciate it more. I don't know.
Yeah. I get that, especially with the different perspectives as well. Like I feel like with movies, we've seen every kind of concept you can really put together. You know what I mean? But the execution of it and the perspective is always different.
They're making a fucking Winnie the Pooh horror movie where apparently the background is they ate Eeyore. So I'm like, Christ, nothing is safe in my childhood anymore. Like next is gonna be Toy Story. All the toys are coming back for Andy because they left them. Like, good God.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Oh, dude.
And also they're gonna kill Christopher Robin, it looks like.
I know. There's I think in the trailer they had a girl sleeping in the bathtub and Piglet came up behind her and like snapped her neck or something like that. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Just no remorse.
Could
Love
you
it.
imagine them dusting off like the Teen Titans to do a horror film?
Yeah, they should. Like, I think there's a lens there. There is an appetite there for skewered things. It's almost like when the Brothers Grimm wrote shit and it was already fucked up. And then Disney or like Don Bluth, whoever, took the story, redid it, and then it was like this sort of clean cut version of it. But like stories like The Little Mermaid is pretty fucked up.
Do you like, for me, I prefer if someone's going to make a film that's based on a real thing, I rather it not have any fantasy aspects to it. I'd rather it just be historically right. Maybe that's just because like diving into the JFK topic when someone's explaining a lot of stuff, if it's not verified, you realize that this person could just be telling you their own twist on how it went, which is not wrong. It's good to like listen to and talk about like on a show or something. But if you're really trying to like
Yeah.
know the historical value of stuff, it's like, oh shit, like you got to be careful when someone like, that's where like people say like, conspiracy stuff, but it's like for real things like the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, based on the Manson murders at the ending. That's the Manson murders where they went to that Tate family's house and they went to go kill them. That was what that was. That was what the farm was where Brad Pitt went. And you realize, oh shit, that's not just movie, that's real stuff, but it's their twist take on it. And some of it is real. Like there's a lot of things like I don't know if I want to, if you ever read Tom O'Neill's book, what he exposed through the Freedom of Information Act about Vincent Bugliosi. And Vincent Bugliosi he was the trial prosecutor in the Manson murders.
Right.
He
Okay.
committed perjury in the trials. They hired a prosecutor to go on the defendant's side and sabotage the trial so they would lose. All this shit came out after the people were already dead. Now, if you commit perjury and in the Manson trials, if you commit perjury, those people, you can be put to death. Those people were put to death. Some of them, I think, did die. I think they were put to death. I think it was 5 people. I'm not 100% sure, but
Jesus.
so if you commit perjury in a murder trial and those people, the sentence is death, you get sentenced to death because you're lying to make this person basically get killed. So that's what this guy did. And this guy, Vince Bugliosi, the book ended up coming out after his death, which sucked because this guy interviewed him and this dude was like, so this guy wrote a book about JFK and it was called it was about the critics of the Warren Commission, the people that don't believe the official story. He was just attacking them and telling them everything. So I go, even if you don't like believe in the conspiracy aspect, why would you defend someone who beat a woman who was pregnant and had her miscarry and lied about it for all these years and it ended up coming out way after the fact? That person wrote a book saying that there is no conspiracy behind JFK. I don't give a shit. Your character background is not someone I want to be on the same side with. You know what I mean? Like
That's right.
that's what you start getting into is like you start realizing like there's I mean, there's weird stuff on both sides. Mark Lane, for instance, the guy who not only defended one of the guests I had on the show who talked JFK with me, but also defended Lee Harvey Oswald for a brief amount of time before his mother fired him. He was in Jonestown. He wrote a book about that too. I came across a file with his name in it. And I don't know I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't know, but like, there's just a lot of things like and it's a weird part in history when you start realizing that we build up history to look like Superman, but Superman smokes cigarettes and is a bit of a drinker. Like
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that type of stuff, but I don't know. Like for me, I just like, even like my conversation with you, I don't care about your background. I don't care about what happened before. You're just talking to me, and my relationship develops for how our conversation goes and the way you treat me. Everything else is, it's stuff I really don't need to know about, but there's just a lot of stuff where you start realizing, like, like, what is it? All the scandals that all these people have, actors and all this type of stuff. Like, yeah, they're human, but like, if you just deny that those things are real, which is what this guy did about the Manson murders, dude, he was involved in like the OJ trial. He was involved in so much stuff where you start realizing, holy shit, did the guy we thought was the good guy? And like, I see articles about this guy, and he's dead, and we're not crapping on a dead person, obviously, but you see articles about him like greatest man alive and all this type of stuff. And you're just like, yo, he was a piece of shit, and they covered it up. And it's like, obviously everyone has flaws, but damn it. Like, you know how many people in society get shit thrown at them, and they're necessarily not even a bad guy, but they get shit thrown at them. And then like you get the good people that are hiding their and it's just corruption, dude. It's like the government. The government's not going to tell you about drugging civilians like they did in the 50s and 60s and might still be doing today. But they cover that up and they make you think like, oh, we're here to protect you. No, you're not. You're fucking, if I was an enemy or a communist, you would fucking light me up.
I could just imagine him listening right now. Like,
I
can you
know.
just like say all the trigger words like Russian, enemy, communist?
Yeah, that's a big thing, though. I mean, that was such a peak point, and I'm very interested in the Cold War right now because of that. But I mean, they were knocking on people's doors saying you got to buy a nuclear bomb shelter because we don't know when we're going to be at World War, and it was just like, whoa. And the media had a really big part to play in that. I mean, the media they've been, media is controlled by government, movies are controlled by government. And it all sounds crazy, but like I said, I had that guy that did the documentary on my show about it, and he brought all the documents. I mean, he sent it to me. He never showed them on air, but he made a film called Theaters of War, and it shows they did FOIA requests, dude, and they changed the ending script to Jurassic Park. That's how crazy it is. The ending on is it the third one or the first one where they're like, "Thank God for the Marines." Did you know that was added
Yeah, the
in?
third one.
Yeah. So it's like everyone hears that and they go, oh, the Marines must be awesome. And it's like, that's small propaganda. But dude, I put up a file, and I've mentioned this so many times. So people listening probably like, oh, fuck, he's saying this again. Dude, I found a file on the FBI. You can go to the FBI site right now and look this up. There's a file on Walt Disney. And I'm like, what? So there's a brief moment in a guy named J. Edgar Hoover in our history. And during they basically hired a bunch of FBI agents to invade Hollywood. They have files on Frank Sinatra. They have file on like every single top name actor and musician all back then, because they were basically investigating them to see if they were a communist, and they were going to interrogate them. So there's a thing called the Hollywood tent. If you look this up, it's a real thing. The FBI was like marking down files on like the top 10 suspects of who they were in communism, like if they were communists. So they would like go to invite these people to dinner, infiltrate their like movie scenes, hang out with these people and try and sort out if they were against America or not. And Walt Disney's file is 700 pages. The first page is so like understandable. It's like, we're going to put it's a letter to J. Edgar Hoover. It's like, we're going to put FBI agents in our Mickey Mouse cartoons so the kids see it and they want to be FBI agents when they grow up. To me, I can 100% agree with that. That's fine. That's not bad at all. I think you agree it's not bad, right? That's not rough.
That's all right.
A Mickey Mouse cartoon with an FBI agent, but then you get 600 pages in, which I did. I looked through each individual one. I was so interested. Also, I was a little hammered, and I was scrolling through, and around page 600 and like 43 or 90 something, it goes, he was ratting out people that work for him that were striking up labor unions and calling them communists and having them interrogated by the FBI and deported just for striking up a labor union. And then I'm like, oh my God, he's a bad guy. And then you realize every photo where Walt Disney's pointing like this, they photoshopped a cigarette out of his fingers because he just smoked all the time. So it just looks like he's pointing. And you're just like, oh my God, my childhood's a lie. Winnie the Pooh's a mass murderer.
Oh man. It's all like that, really. Far out.
You got to laugh at it though, because it's like social media. If you let it consume you, it will. You just got to have fun with it.
Yep. That's, I think that was the biggest thing, social media and realizing that Twitter's not a real place. Because last year, there was this big push for everyone to get vaccinated. And I was holding out because I was like, I want it to be like FDA approved. I want it to be like, I want the bulk of people to go through to see what the adverse reactions are. Then, like, there was so much discourse on the internet and Twitter and everything.
I love your thinking. I just want to see people take it first and see what happens. Like fucking, I'm gonna wait.
Yeah. Man, like the first thing that I thought about was if I die or if something happens and my life is like irrevocably changed forever,
All
what
right,
the hell am I gonna do? Like
careful.
with
YouTube will
kids.
flag that shit. Careful.
Ah, okay, yeah. And then yeah, I just basically said fuck it, take the plunge. But on the internet, there was so many people going like, if everyone just took it, we would be out of lockdown. So you kind of like take on that guilt and you feel it and every day and every interaction that you have. And it's like, I can't trust people. Should I trust people? Will they agree with me? Will they be against me? Will that relationship be destroyed? And then, yeah, that was kind of like my eyes opening up and then going, just fuck it.
I like I'm glad that like this would be like on the record, I would say, only because when we hear it later, we won't ever forget what that was like. Like I think with enough time, people have forgotten how difficult it was in the beginning and how like hard everything was. And people are like, you just got to move on. I'm like, well, you also have to remember to draw your fucking boundaries on shit. They labeled something as a horse paste, and now that thing is on the CDC website as an approved medication to be used. So that was 2.5 years of bullshit where you realize that like there's a lot of like difficult things about it. Whether I don't care what your stance on in COVID is at all. I've talked to people in the NIH, the WHO, and I've talked to people on the complete opposite side. I can tell you 100% for a fact that everyone was guessing on a lot of this shit. And that's exactly the answers I got. And I don't hold anybody to it. I don't hold any grudges or anything, but I think you have to be very, very conscious where you're not accepting advice from your fucking celebrities on what to do medically. You should be looking and talking to your individual doctors who know you the best. And that's another thing where I get into personalized medicine. Doctors shouldn't have 10, 15 patients they have to take care of. Each doctor should have a great relationship with their patient. That means you should have a total of 5 patients that you see Monday through Friday, basically. Different days you schedule them in, but you talk to them, you get to know them. I've had, I think, two doctors in my life that have been like that. I haven't been to the doctors in probably 6 months, 7 months. They keep messaging me to make
Wow.
an appointment. I'm like, I don't need to fucking see you. Like, why? I'm like, for a checkup where you see me for 10 minutes and you don't care about me. Like
Yeah.
my doctor before then, it was crazy, dude. Because I went into my doctor's office and I would always like, it's my personality. How I am on the show is how I am in real life. So like after a while, she figured it out and she'd be like, can you just like, can you work with me? I'm like, work with you? Like, I don't want to be a doctor. And like, no, as a patient, like, can you just not like, can you just do what I say for like 5 minutes? And I'm like, all right, sure. 5 minutes. That's it. Time starting now. But it's like jokes like that and having fun. And then like she remember her last day, her name's Courtney. She was like, you seem like you have like a lot of like kind of abandonment issues. I was like, probably deep down I'm hiding it. And she's like, I hate to say this, and I'm not joking, but I'm actually moving to North Carolina and I'm not gonna be your doctor anymore. I'm like, you're fucking around. No, she was serious. I was like, fuck. So it was like, but I still keep it. She listens to the show, so it's like, I mean, hey, you got to have like, I think when it comes to like doctors, when it comes to the education system, I used to have very controversial takes on that stuff. I have controversial takes now about everything, but I also give a lot of leniency to a lot of things. My only issue is that I give you leniency in the beginning for not knowing what a pandemic can do. But when you're still doubling down on everything, even though we know that it's not true anymore, you have to just change it. But there's this idea of like, will they lose faith in me? It's like when you're hanging out with your parents. If you ask a question to your parents when you're a kid and you don't know, you're just like bullshit. Let me make it up, because you don't want to look like an idiot in front of your kid, and you don't want your kid to feel like you don't have the answers, so they'll never come to you. I mean, it's a breaking thing. It's just like in our society.
And then there's also the way that you like sort of you speak, because you don't want to incite any more panic than what there already is. So the words that you use, the verbiage that you have to use is very different.
The best thing you can do as a parent is make sure your kid doesn't ever ask you a question. Just make sure they fucking Google it and let them find whatever source they find it from. Like, you just got to take your chances at that point. I mean, we're in a digital age right now where you could say one thing to your kid, and back in the day, your dad could tell you something like, "I love you, son." You didn't have to Google it because you couldn't Google it. But now you could just Google it. Does my dad really love me? And then you find a blog post about how your parents are fucking lying to you. Like,
Because his father never loved him.
I mean, we're in a I think as a parenting changes throughout the times, it's just different to see. I'm seeing a lot of newer generation parents. I wonder if it's like if you're like this as well too, where you're choosing healthier options than you probably did as a kid, and you're kind of doing more of like a more involved parenting probably than what your parents probably did. It seemed like my generation of parent, like my age, who are parents, are more involved, but my parents, their generation was like disconnected. And then their grandparents were like kind of connected, but they were more hard asses. So they were there, but you didn't want them to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. There was that overprotective nature that they would have had. Like everything would have been chaperoned, everything would have been sort of designed and staged out. There was also like the expectations that those like people in that generation would have had. Like the goals for women back then, the goals for men back then, what their daily duties would have been.
I'll give you a good example, personal example. My parents were DJs. When I lived with my dad was just go out as long as you want. You don't have a curfew. Like when I was like 15, because I know you'll be home. And that's give me the full world, whatever response, give me the no responsibilities, no bedtime, none of this type of stuff. Go out and do whatever you want. I was skateboarding until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I would come home. My dad always knew, like, just give him what, because he wasn't there. So it was like, just give him, it's better to have freedom than, it's better to, I guess the quote would be, it's better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So he was like, instead of using that, I'd rather just say, do whatever the hell you want. And I know you'll be responsible and make smart decisions. And I did. And he got lucky in that sense. But then you take his examples of his dad parenting him. If he did anything wrong, like was out past curfew, his dad threw him through a fucking wall. So it was like, there's that where it's like, okay, they're more involved, but necessarily you didn't want them to be involved. So then you have my age of parenting where every kid and every friend that I have, even exes that I have that have kids, they're all like helicopter parents. Like, make sure you're putting on sunscreen, make sure you're doing this. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, I don't be like that. Fuck.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's because of Google. Like, or not just Google, but like everything. Like, there's so much information now that you got to cater for all of it. Like, if your kids don't eat fucking 3 servings of vegetables every day, they're gonna die. And if your kids like don't wear a hat out to school, they're gonna die. It's like it just mounts this pressure on you. And then if you don't do one of those fucking things, you're the worst parent ever.
You sound like my, what is it? My driver school teacher, where like everything he would say, like, you don't take this left turn when you're supposed to take a left turn and there's no straightaway, you're going to the morgue. And that was always his answer after everything was, you're going to the, you know what happens? You don't have your seatbelt on, you're going to the morgue. You know what happens if you don't let the lady pass in front of you through the crosswalk, you're going to the morgue. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
That's how it feels like to parent nowadays. Because you don't get it just from one side, you get it from like your parents. Oh, we used to do that when you were younger, so you didn't die. And look, like you got kids of your own. I was like, all right, cool. And then you find like another piece of information that goes against what they said. Yeah, it's like, well, actually, I read this on the internet. And they're like, oh, okay, and they're so offended. because now they think
Mhm.
that everything that they did was wrong, and they're bad parents.
Bill Burr
It's
has the
just
best joke about this, and it's the best version for society. It's like when they first invented the car and they only gave the driver seatbelts, and then that driver got into a car accident and his whole family died. Oh, my family. Oh, why? And then they added seatbelts to everybody's seats. But I mean, look at the way we put in, like, what is it? You were supposed to have the baby in the middle of the car, and then in the seat, the car seat, and then now it's like behind the seats now. Or is it the opposite? Where I was like, it didn't make sense to, yeah, you get it if a car hits you from the side, it's not going to crush your kid, but then your kid's in the middle. So what happens if a car hits you from behind and the kid just flies right through the fucking windshield?
that's right. Yeah, all the whiplash and the head just comes straight off.
Oh God.
Yeah, I
Fuck, man.
But like if you live with the idea of just always like something's gonna happen, something's gonna fucking happen. You know what I mean? And that's why what your dad did was a fucking blessing in disguise. And it's weird that I go back to like religious terminology when like it's something that's like great and imparted onto you, because like if he didn't do that, man, the confidence just probably wouldn't be there. Like he trusted you. And I think trust from a parent to a child is probably the biggest thing that's missing from parenting nowadays.
I think it's a safe connection to be friends with your kid, but also keep that relationship of being a parent involved as well too. Like you want your kid to talk to you about, like, you want your kid to talk to you about stuff, but you also don't want your kid to be too comfortable to the point where they just can be like, it's, I feel for anybody as a parent out there, like, just, I think it's all like a thing of chance. Like, you necessarily don't know if they're going to come out to be a piece of shit, but you pray to God
That's
it
right.
doesn't
Yeah,
happen like that.
that's right. Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, they had parents.
Hey, there's
You know what
government
I mean?
influence there. There's government influence there.
Oh man, yeah, you really don't know. It's a mixed bag. Like, how about those fucking terrible parents who were like addicts and were never there and they were just absent, and their kids grow up to be like fucking honor roll students. Or like the parents that were always there and the kids go on to like shoot up a school or something like that. Like it
Jesus.
really is chaos.
God damn. Can you imagine that? You just retire with a 401k and your kid gets caught being a school shooter? That would be terrible. You're like, fuck, I got to get a second job again.
Fuck that, man. Fuck that. If my kid was caught, like actually doing it, they knew it was him, they caught him, they actually took him alive, like he would need to go to prison. I'd still love him, but fuck, he would need to go. I would not even like support a claim that he's not guilty.
I
Maybe
don't know.
insane,
That's a tough
but
topic.
not guilty.
I don't want to touch that
All
topic.
right, all right, all right, all right,
I can make fun of the
all
honor
right.
roll parents, but Jesus, good God. You know, OJ's parents still supported him after all that shit.
Oh,
Like, fuck,
you
I
reckon
don't care what he
OJ
did.
did
Did
it?
you see Naked Gun? He was great, Naked Gun.
He killed Naked Gun. I don't know if he killed that woman, but he killed Naked Gun.
If I did an OJ doc, I would make sure I get OJ specifically on the show to talk about it. Have you seen, he's on Twitter all the time. I invited him to do the show. He never replied.
You just gotta keep doing it, man. Just gotta keep inviting him. Maybe the next time, like call the documentary "The Juice."
The juice. It's
Yeah,
worth the
because
squeeze.
like, yeah, yeah. And maybe the documentary is just about you getting OJ on the show. It's like that's the squeeze.
I did reach out to a person. And he was like, it's going to be $2,000 for me to do your show. And I asked for 20 minutes to do a film thing. It was the guy book I mentioned to you about the Manson murders. He was like, it's going to be $2,000 for 20 minutes. And I was like, actually, you know what? I'm just going to use this email as you being in my film. I'm just going to use that remark about, like, I reached out to him and he sent me this and it's like $2,000. So that's going to be a part in the film. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And then you get like a receipt later, like an invoice. That'll be $50 for using that screenshot in the
God
film.
damn it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I would
Uh,
pay to have a lot of this stuff like collections and actual footage, but like if I waited another 10 years, I could do it without even asking for permission because it would all be free. It would all be fair use because it's over like 70 years, I think. But everything is like owned, like all the digital, the news reporting, the Walter Cronkite interviews, and it's like this is just going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, man. But like all that shit, I think if you pay for everything, right? And everyone does your shit basically for you, and you're just putting it together and sequencing it and whatnot, like it staves the like it kills your creativity. Like you could do something else, like using that fucking tweet in that response.
Mhm.
Like that's like your flavor.
I don't. I like that you think I got a flavor. That's funny.
Hey, there's a Robinson flavor.
I definitely have a different style than most, I would say. But I think it, I don't know. The film's fucking killing me right now, dude. I'm not even. It's supposed to be coming out in December. I don't even want to talk about it because it's gonna put more pressure on me. But you know what? It's. I think everyone needs to. I would like to see a Smoke and Mirrors podcast film if you guys ever made one.
Oh, you know, one of our goals on the side, like me and my missus, like her brothers come from like film background, like they went to film school and everything, right? So we're trying to organize something, short film, or like trying to climb that ladder to get to a feature.
Uh, what would be what do you mean to get to a feature?
So like creating short films to get um what's his face to get like sort of awareness and exposure to then be able to go, all right, well, here's a feature. Like, or people will go, what do you want to do? Because you're making these crazy short films. Can we finance your like your first feature film? Like
I'd
these
finance
guys
it.
that blow up on YouTube.
I don't know what you wanted from me. I'm like, if I had money, I'd drain my bank account to finance your stuff, but I'm not even asking for financing. I'm like, I'm going to do it the best way possible is that I'm going to make a film using all the people I've talked to and make it free. And I'm going to make it as cheap as possible. Basically, I don't have to put any money in production. I don't have to do any of this. I can just use segments and clips and, I can film my own scenes, obviously free time. So really it's just about putting in work. I think if you put in enough effort to something, you can make a reasonably cheap film pretty fucking good. I've seen Willy's Wonderland, which I'm pretty sure they didn't even pay Nick Cage to talk because it would have been a lot more money. And that was a great film.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure with the shit that Nick Cage got to do in that movie that he paid them to do it.
I know. I thought it was great. A lot of people didn't like it, but Rob, I actually got to wrap it, man. We've been talking for 2 hours. I know it's late over there for you.
All good. So fun talking to you, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Is there a place where people can find any of your links?
Absolutely. On Twitter, Smoke and Mirrors Oz, we're there. And on Instagram, Smoke_Mirrors Podcast. Check us out. We release new episodes weekly on Movie Mondays, and we're always posting something. And on YouTube, of course, Smoke and Mirrors Podcast. We're there.
I'll make sure I link it all in the description. It's been a pleasure chatting. Thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for our next episode.